Hey everybody, my name is Philip. Earlier this year I started a journey through God's Word, one chapter at a time. I wanted to see if I could pull out some real life lessons that we can use in our lives today. So whether you have read the Bible for years or you're new to God's Word, my intention is to break down each chapter as simply and as clearly as I possibly can and try to leave us with some takeaways that we can use in our life. So I hope these videos are beneficial to you in some way, and I hope you enjoy them. Welcome back, everybody. We are in 1 Chronicles chapter 19 today. In our last video, we were in 1 Chronicles 17. We got to see the establishment of the Davidic covenant, God's promise to David that his line would last forever, his dynasty would last forever. Ultimately, the Messiah would come from David's line. Chapter 18 just kind of summarizes some military accomplishments and victories for King David, and shows a brief snippet into the picture of who the folks around him are, who different advisors and priests and secretaries were. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into chapter 19 today. It's a chapter ultimately filled with drama, misunderstanding, and a lesson about how we should treat others. It shows those that are leaders how to respond to conflict, and more importantly, how easily things can spiral out of control when that trust is broken. So with all that said, let's jump right in. Alright, let me set the stage a little bit. At the beginning of the chapter, a fellow named King Nahash of the Ammonites, he dies. His son Hanun takes the throne. Nahash dies, Hanun takes the throne. So King David, king of Israel, he remembers Nahash. He remembers that fellow had showed him kindness in the past, and so he wants to return the favor. So what does he do? In verse 2, it says, David said, I am going to show loyalty to Hanun because his father Nahash was always loyal to me. So David sent messengers to express sympathy to Hanun about his father's death. So he sends these messengers. He's like, hey, Nahash was good to me. I'm going to be good to him. And ultimately, I'm going to be good to his son. So this seems like a good idea. It's simple enough, a gesture of goodwill. It's respectful, peaceful. David is not trying to burn a bridge. He's trying to build a bridge with this Hanun fella. But here's where things go sideways. Hanun decides to listen to the wrong voices. The advisors around him are paranoid and suspicious, and they tell him this in verse 3. Do you really think these men are coming here to honor your father? No! David has sent them to spy out the land so they can come in and conquer it. And just like that, this kind act of David was twisted into a threat. And Hanun, he lets this fear and this insecurity sort of take over him. And what he does next is sort of shocking, disrespectful, and just a little bit humorous. Here's what happens. David publicly humiliates David's men. He shaves off their beards. He cuts off their robes at the hips. So now you got bald, beardless fellas basically wearing miniskirts. So he's exposing their areas. And the picture of that, while this is super disrespectful, not funny at all, the picture of that is kind of funny. Sorry. But let's see where it shows that. It says in verse 4, So Hanun seized David's ambassadors and shaved them, cut off their robes at the buttocks, and sent them back to David in shame. So, this wasn't just a simple prank. This was really a deep insult, both culturally and personally. You see, in ancient Israel, a beard was a sign of honor and manhood, and to shave it off was to really shame somebody. This was a real declaration of hostility that Hanun chose to do here. Alright, so I just wanted to kind of spend a second just on that part of it really quick. So here's King Hanun. He's just taken over as king of the Ammonites from his father Nahash, and he has the opportunity to make peace here with David, but instead he chooses to listen to this fear-based advice from people who don't really trust David. Have you ever had that moment where someone tries to warn you about a friend and suddenly you start seeing them through this sort of lens of suspicion? It's easy to assume the worst about someone, especially when our pride or insecurity is involved. But I think the challenge here is to not let our fear cancel out someone else's kindness. We have to be careful to whose voices are the ones we listen to. And sometimes the people that are whispering these things in our ears are not generally the wisest people. They're just the loudest people. So we have to be careful there. All right, so moving on. King Nahon makes this move of humiliation to David's men, and now he's starting to realize that, oops, I may have offended the wrong guy. I may have offended the wrong king. David hears what happens. His men are humiliated, and he responds with military action. But now the Ammonites are starting to panic. They realize they've picked a fight they weren't exactly ready for, so they hire backup. They hire 33,000 Armenian soldiers from neighboring regions. So this conflict is really ramping up. It's escalating. What started as a simple misunderstanding is now becoming an international war. So David sends his general Joab to the front lines, and here comes the most powerful moment in the chapter. Joab sees that they're all surrounded, front, back, side, and side. Things don't look good. In fact, it looks pretty bad, pretty dire. But listen to Joab's speech to his brother in verse 13. It says this: "Be courageous. Let us fight bravely for our people and the cities of our God. May the Lord's will be done." Like, wow. Here's a leader who's not panicking. He doesn't pretend that he knows how things are going to happen or how they're going to get out of this particular bind. He just says, be strong, be brave, trust God. So here's this guy who has really every justifiable reason to sort of freak out or panic. But what's really cool is that he chooses not to. So for us, when we're facing pressure, whether it's from school or work or relationships or kids, sometimes it's going to feel like we're surrounded, like there's no way out. But this moment shows us what faith looks like under fire. That strength is a choice. Bravery is obedience, not the absence of fear. You can be brave and afraid at the same time. And trusting God doesn't mean that you know what the outcome will be. It just means that you trust the one who controls the outcome. To wrap up this chapter, in the end, Israelites are victorious. God gives them the victory over the Ammonites and the Armenians. And look how it ends in verse 19. It says this: "When Hadazer's allies saw that they had been defeated by Israel, they surrendered to David and became his subjects. After that, the Arameans were no longer willing to help the Ammonites." So in the end, the very nations that had opposed David now respect and are aligned with him. So this entire chapter is really a warning in a lot of ways about how pride and bad advice and false assumptions, all those things, can turn a friend into a foe like that. But it's also a reminder that leadership, courage, and faith in God can win us battles, even battles that we didn't begin or start. So here's what I want you to remember. Lead with kindness, like David, but expect that not everyone will understand your intentions. That's okay. Lead with kindness. Listen to wise voices, not fearful voices. You're going to get both. You need to discern the difference between the two and listen to the wise voices. And number 3, when you're surrounded, don't retreat. Stand strong, be brave, and trust God. Let go of your pride. It'll wreck your relationships with others faster than any enemy could. Only do it.